Well, Monday will mark the 22nd anniversary of the September 11th attacks. And today, Habitat for Humanity of Dane County is holding a day of service and remembrance. The community event will bring together volunteers, community leaders, current and military veterans, and service organizations. Participants will work on building homes for local families and raise awareness and money for other veteran-build initiatives through Habitat for Humanity. This morning, they had a moment of silence to kick off the day and featured veterans from the community as speakers.
I spent 3 years of my Navy career working at the Pentagon in spaces adjacent to the Navy's flag plot, where the terrorist hijacked Flight 77 smashed into the building. Several of the people killed in that attack were acquaintances of mine. So each year, this date brings a reminder of their sacrifices.
Today's event honors the memory of people who died in the 9/11 attacks and the first responders who risked their lives thereafter.